What is up, you guys? Welcome to my channel. I am Missy Renee, and today we're going to talk about resistance, or as I also like to call it, conditioning your desire, and how you can overcome any of this resistance when manifesting. So if manifestation and conscious creation are topics that you are interested in learning more about, then definitely do not forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon so that way you are notified when I release new videos every week. If you're interested in more resources such as one-on-one coaching or my new membership group, I will have that linked down in the description box below, so definitely be sure to check those out. And I decided to make this video because this is obviously a question that I get asked about all the time. Virtually everybody, when they are first starting out, are typically met with some form of resistance or another. But what exactly does resistance mean? And where does it come from? And most importantly, how do we overcome it? Now, I did make a video a little while back talking about resistance. If you'd like, you can check out that video up here, and I'll also have it linked down in the description box. But I want to take this a little bit further. I want to make sure that there is a very clear understanding of what this is and how we make this resistance, what we are doing to cause this resistance, so that you can easily overcome it, and so that ultimately you can manifest anything that you want. Now, some people argue that Neville didn't really ever talk about resistance or teach resistance. And going over his lectures and his books over the last several years, I don't recall a time that he used the word resistance specifically. However, Neville did talk about conditioning your desire, which is in effect the same thing as resistance. Or you can even argue this is what causes resistance. And I have talked briefly about conditioning your desire, but again, this is important to understand, and it's really important to have a full concept going forward so you know when this is happening and when you might be doing it unconsciously. Conditioning your desire basically just means that you don't allow yourself to accept the end state. You don't allow yourself to live in the end because you believe that certain conditions need to be met in order to manifest what you want. Or you believe that certain external conditions are blocking you from getting what you want. This includes needing to know how it's going to happen and trying to figure out how it's going to happen, believing that something must come in a certain particular way, or that it must show up through a certain course, or believing that things cannot show up in a particular way. And the biggest condition that we all have is our concept of self. As I've talked about many times before, your concept of self is the sum total of your beliefs, your assumptions, your expectations, and how you view yourself and how you view the world around you. And this is the biggest condition that we put on top of everything, because we see everything through the lens of our concept of self. We see everything through our glasses that show us it needs to be done like this, it has to be met through this way, it cannot come like this. Basically anything that involves the words cannot, won't, don't, anything like that is a condition that you are placing on your desire. And those stem from your concept of self. But it's important to know this because ultimately your conditioning of your desire and that concept that you carry around the situation boils down to your fears and doubts. They are your fears and doubts masked as certain criteria that need to be met in order for something to happen. These fears and these doubts hide under the disguise of being reasonable, of being practical, of being logical, being realistic, anything that seems emotionally real to you, anything that seems like it is a concrete fact. And these conditions, these fears, these doubts are always correlated with your current state of consciousness. And as such, you have a strong attachment to these concepts, to these conditions, which are really just your fears and your doubts. though it might not seem like it. It might not look at it if you're just looking at it consciously. And it talks about this in the Bible. Fears and doubts are represented biblically by Satan, which means the oppressor or the resistor. In the Bible, it talks about how Satan would disguise himself as an angel of light. So these fears and these doubts and these conditions can seem like they're coming from a place of trying to help you. They seem like they're coming from a place of trying to protect you. They can feel like they're guiding you from harm or guiding you from getting hurt. But they are misleading you. They are misleading God or your consciousness, because through God, anything is possible. Through your consciousness, anything is possible. So in the Bible, it talks about how Satan would try to trick people into believing that there were certain conditions that needed to be met. And these conditions make you feel vulnerable. They make you feel insecure. They make you feel doubtful. And it also makes it feel like it's protecting you at the same time. And the reason that this is so important to understand is because if you are struggling to manifest, it is very likely because you have such a strong attachment to those fears and those doubts. And those fears and those doubts place conditions upon what can and cannot happen. You may try to do all sorts of mental gymnastics to justify them. On the surface, they feel real, they feel insurmountable, they feel like it is the be-all end-all. This is the way it is. They might make you feel better, trying to keep you from doing something that might put you in a place of vulnerability or being uncomfortable, of stepping out of your comfort zone. These fears and these doubts can feel like they are reality and the way that it is. And this boils down to where resistance comes from. When you feel resistance towards what you are trying to manifest, when you feel your mind fighting you over what you desire to experience, it is because those fears and those doubts have created so much of an emotional attachment to the unwanted state that the unwanted state feels more real to you. And then you feel like through the techniques, through affirming, through trying to visualize, that you're lying to yourself. Well, every time you tell yourself this, every time you tell yourself that you're lying or that it's not real, those are conditions that you are placing upon what you desire. So how do you get past that resistance? How do you get to a place where you stop resisting what you want? You cease all of that resistance when you finally accept that what you desire is in fact your new reality. You cease resisting when you accept the new state without conditions. You accept it fully and completely. All of that resistance must fade and go away when you accept your new desired state. All of that resistance goes away once you detach from it, once you are no longer emotionally attached to the unwanted, undesired state. You stop resisting when you get to a place where you accept your desired outcome, regardless of what the circumstances might be around you. When you accept that nothing needs to be fought or changed, or that there's any work to do, or that there's any trying that needs to be done, when you get to a place where there are no conditions that present a problem to what you're trying to manifest. So when I talk about detachment, when I talk about dropping the desire, when I talk about letting go, this isn't about dropping what you want or letting go and moving on from what you desire. It's detaching yourself from those conditions brought on by your fears and your doubts. Neville talked about this in his lecture about the fundamentals of manifesting. Detachment was the third step. You must detach yourself from your current state, the conditions that surround it, and you must attach yourself to your aim, or what it is that you desire to manifest. You stop resisting as soon as the new state feels natural to you. It feels normal. It feels reasonable. And there's no conditions around it. And that is really important, and ultimately what you need to remember and take away from all of this. You want to get to a place of naturalness where it feels completely normal, that you don't even give it a second thought. Because remember, we are always manifesting, and we always manifest those things that feel natural and expected and reasonable to us. We manifest the things that feel normal. Good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter. When something feels natural to you, you already automatically accept it as a done deal without any conditions to be met. And this is where our imaginal acts come in. This is where our imagination comes in. The imaginal acts are to normalize the new emotional experience so that it feels normal to you. It feels natural to you. It feels natural to assume that desired reality. This is the entire point of the techniques, of the imaginal acts, all of it. Now, when I say imaginal acts, I don't just mean visualizing in the state akin to sleep. An imaginal act is anything that helps you to feel the new desired state. So for some people, that's affirmations. For some people, it's the lullaby method. Whatever it might be, the only thing that we need to remember when it comes to our imaginal acts is they are tools to help us normalize that new emotional state so that we can feel it natural. Because once it feels natural, there's no longer that need to try to manifest against the conditions that you've put around your desire. It's dropping all of that resistance. It's dropping all of that conditioning and just allowing yourself to feel that new state until it feels like the most natural, obvious choice. The aim of the imaginal acts is to starve off all of those old fears and those old doubts and all of the conditions that come with it. And by doing so, the desired state becomes the natural dominant state. You make it feel natural for someone like you to be able to experience your desire. It's removing those conditions, removing all of those conditions about who you are, what you're trying to do, and what kind of things you can experience. Your concept of self changes as soon as you start to do this. Your self-concept changes when you naturally begin to cultivate the desired state instead of the unwanted one. This is the transformation, and this is a part of our bridge of incidence. Part of our bridge of incidence happens on the inside, and I would argue that this is the most important aspect of the bridge of incidence, which includes your transformation from the person that you were to now being the person that you desire to be. So how do you tell if you are having resistance towards something? How can you tell what that resistance is and what might be holding you back? You can tell by how you feel about your present situation and about how you feel when it comes to your desire. Whichever one feels more normal to you, whatever one feels more natural to you, whatever feels more real to you, is ultimately what you're going to keep perpetuating. Your present feelings about a matter reveal to you what feels more real, the fears or the desire. If the unwanted conditions and the unwanted circumstance feels more real to you, then you're going to react to those conditions and you're going to be met with resistance. As you begin to cultivate the desired state more and more, and as it becomes more and more natural to you, you're going to find that those conditions go away. Those fears don't come up. Those opposing thoughts no longer come up. Those negative feelings dissipate naturally. It all stems from your concept of yourself and the situation and what feels more real to you, which one you are attached to. And when you try to fight against whatever you're attached to, if you try to fight against what feels real to you, that is where resistance is met. And the way to overcome resistance when it comes to your imaginal acts is all in how you approach it. And this is probably the most important part, and the thing that I see the most people doing that is causing that resistance. When you go into your imaginal acts, you do not want to go into it with the premise of, I need to do this thing to get what I want. That mindset in and of itself is conditioning it. I have to do this and I have to do it correctly or I'm not going to get what I want. When we approach it from that angle, not only are we conditioning the terms of our desire and our manifestation, but we're also going against those fears and limiting beliefs and those doubts. So it's going to cause that back and forth and that double-mindedness, and all of those thoughts are going to start racing about how this isn't possible, this isn't doable, this is crazy, you're delusional. All of these things are the result of putting those conditions on your imaginal act. And because when you are starting out, you are naturally going to feel more attached to the unwanted state versus the desired state, you're going to be met with resistance. So we place all these expectations on the imaginal act itself as, this is the only way I can get what I want. And this is where we get more focused on the technique itself versus the feeling. A lot of people get in a headspin about their scene and how detailed it is, and what should I imagine for this scenario, and all of these things that are completely irrelevant to what you're trying to do. It's not about getting the most detailed, vivid scene. It's about getting to a place where it feels natural and real. So how do you do this then? Instead of approaching the imaginal acts from the stance of, I need to do this to get this, do the imaginal acts for the sake of feeling good. Do it because it feels good. Do it because you'll feel better. You know, all of these affirmations, all of these imagining in the state akin to sleep, the whole purpose is so that we can feel better. You'll be met with so much less resistance when you come at it from a place of just wanting to feel good. Your mind is not going to fight you on that. Your mind is not going to fight you if you just say, I like how this feels, so I'm doing it because it feels nice, versus assuming that I need to do this technique and I need to do it perfectly because if I do it perfectly, then I'll get what I want. Do you see how that can cause all sorts of contradictions and all sorts of ways that your mind, your limiting beliefs, those fears and those doubts can attack you? So we got to approach this in a different way. If you are feeling heavy resistance to what you are trying to imagine or what you're trying to affirm, then take a step back and stop trying to put all these conditions on your manifestation practice. Do it for the sake of, it feels good. I enjoy it. I enjoy how this feels. I like going into meditation and imagining because it feels nice. I do it to escape the 3D reality and all of the BS in it, and I get to go into my own little world where it just feels good. That is the approach that needs to be taken if you find that you're being met with a lot of resistance. Use your imaginal acts to feel better, to just feel better, and don't put any more expectation on it than that. Because if you keep putting those expectations of, I need to do this to get this, it's going to start to feel like a chore. It's going to start to feel like work. You're going to be constantly looking around for validation and confirmation. And then you're going to get frustrated because you don't see anything. And then you're going to get fed up and you're going to give up entirely. This is how I see so much resistance being fought. And it's a battle. It's a back and forth with your own mind, with your own self-concept. So instead, we have to drop the effort. We have to drop all of those conditions and drop all of the effort into our imaginal acts. This should be effortless. This should help you to just feel good, to feel calm, to feel peace, to feel loved, whatever it might be. That should be the only expectation. Remember when we were kids and how we used to have the most vivid and wild imagination, and we would just get lost in our imagination all day because it felt good? Yeah, it's like that. That is the approach you want to take. You want to get to a place where you no longer have that resistance. You want to get to a place where you're no longer conditioning what it is that you want. And you do this by allowing yourself to just get swept up in that good feeling. No strings attached, nothing. Because here's the thing, the more and more that you are able to do this, and it's going to come way more natural if you're just doing it for the sake of feeling better. It's going to come with much more ease and feel much more normal. And the more that you are able to do this, the more you are filling your consciousness with everything that you want, with all of those good feelings, with all of that satisfaction, with all of that bliss, with all of that joy, that success, whatever it might be. You want to fill your consciousness with those feelings because feeling is everything. This is how you begin to create a new self-concept. You fill your consciousness with all of the things that you do want and what you do love and what brings you joy. Before you know it, that feeling is going to feel more and more natural to you. And you're going to notice as you go throughout your day that you're feeling better. You're not having all of those negative thoughts coming up 24/7. You're not feeling anxious. You're not feeling that pit in your stomach. It naturally starts to fade because the more that you fill your consciousness with what you do want, the more and more it is going to show itself in the 3D. And the more that you start to feel better, the less and less resistance that's going to be met when it comes to imagining what you want. Until before you know it, your desired state feels like the normal state. And once you cultivate that desired state so that it feels more real than your present 3D surroundings, you stop reacting to the current conditions. You stop reacting to those fears and those doubts, and they will start showing up less and less. So be mindful always of what the conditions are that you are putting on everything. And we are conditioning everything whether we're consciously aware of it or not. This includes your manifestation practice itself. Just go into it with the expectation and with the desire to feel better, to feel that happiness, to feel that warmth, to feel that joy. That is how you start to remove that resistance. That is how you start to remove all of those old conditions that were based on fear, based on doubt, and this is what allows you to step into the new state and experience it as your new normal. And when we get to this place, when your present feelings about your desire feel more real to you, feel more natural to you, that is how we manifest whatever it is that we want. So I hope this video helped you guys. If it did, do not forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested in checking out any of my other resources, I will have links down below to my one-on-one coaching, my blog, my social channels, my membership group, and my podcast. I got a lot of goodies down there, so don't forget to check them out. Also, do not forget to check out these videos over here. Each video is a different topic, but it all goes into how to manifest the best life possible. So until we meet next time, take care, be well, and never forget to drop the conditions and the resistance. This is how you step into your power and manifest anything you want. Happy manifesting, guys.